Hey, welcome. Today, we're cracking open the Scrum Master's Playbook. We're skipping past the textbook theory and diving straight into the real world chaos that, let's be honest, probably landed on your desk about 5 minutes ago. Let's get right into it.
Does this sound familiar? Yeah, I thought so. 1 minute you're running a daily stand-up, everything's cool. The next, a production bug crashes the whole system. This isn't some rare, once-in-a-blue-moon scenario. Nope, this is Tuesday. So when the chaos hits the fan, what's your first move?
And that gets to the absolute heart of it, right? A great Scrum Master isn't just a project manager with a different title. You're more like a conductor of an orchestra. You're facilitating those tough conversations, you're coaching the team through fiction, and you're the master communicator keeping everyone in the loop. It's so much more about people than it is about charts.
So let's kick things off with your number one job, guarding the sprint. Seriously, think of the sprint as the sacred beating heart of Scrum. Your mission is to be the shield that protects it from the constant storm of disruptions so your team can actually focus and, get stuff done.
Ah, there it is, the classic mid-sprint grenade. It always looks so small and innocent, right? It's just a 4-hour task, says the CEO. The product owner even says it's okay. But if you just say yes without thinking, you've just opened Pandora's box. So what's the actual protocol here?
Well, the playbook is a pretty clear four-step dance. First, you have to understand the real urgency. Ask the PO, okay, why does this have to happen right now? Step two, you huddle with your team. Not to tell them what to do, but to ask them, hey, can we actually absorb this without everything catching on fire? If the answer's no, you move to step three, facilitating a trade-off. This is key. It's a negotiation. Okay, if this comes in, what goes out? Finally, step four, you communicate the decision to absolutely everyone. No surprises.
And this quote just nails the mindset, doesn't it? You're not a bouncer at a club just saying no. You're a facilitator, making sure that every single decision is made consciously and collaboratively. You protect the sprint goal by making sure your team isn't being set up to fail.
Okay, now for something even trickier. The sprint is, well, it's failing. You're only going to hit 6 of your 10 stories. Or maybe a nasty bug from a past sprint just came back to haunt you and blew up production. The temptation to start pointing fingers is huge, but that's not the path.
Your response here has to be about learning, not about blame. First, you just review what happened, factually, no finger pointing. Then you dig in to find the root cause. Were our estimates way off? Did we hit a roadblock we didn't see coming? You take all that juicy data into the retrospective, and you let the team own it together. The whole point isn't just to figure out what to do with the leftover work. It's to adjust how you plan your next sprint so this doesn't happen all over again.
And that's a perfect segue into our next big topic, coaching. Because look, protecting the sprint is one thing, but empowering the actual people doing the work, that's where the real magic of Agile happens.
Okay, here's a classic, an internal debate that can get pretty heated. Your team is convinced that story points and Fibonacci are just not working for them. They want to go back to estimating in plain old hours. Now, every Agile book you've ever read says story points are the way, but your team's real-world pain is telling a different story. What do?
What's so interesting here is that both sides have a really good point. Fibonacci is all about relative size and complexity. It avoids that trap of pretending we know exactly how long something will take. But hours, well, hours feel real. They feel concrete. and the team genuinely thinks it will solve a problem, your job is not to pick a side in this fight. Instead, you facilitate. You start by just listening. Really listen. Why do they feel this way? Then you help them analyze the data. Is Fibonacci really the villain here, or is something else going on? From there, you guide a healthy debate about the pros and the cons. And here's the most important part. You support whatever they decide. You empower them to run the experiment, and you help them track the results. And this quote, this captures the spirit of it perfectly. Your job is to respect the team's collective wisdom. They're in the trenches every day. They might see things you just can't. You're there to help them make their best decision, not to make it for them.
All right, let's wade into the really deep water now. People problems. You've got one developer who's just not hitting their stride, and it's starting to affect the team's velocity. Or maybe worse, you've got a brilliant senior engineer who's also kind of a jerk, and their arrogance is making the environment toxic. You absolutely cannot just let this stuff slide.
The playbook for this is all about being human. It always starts with a one-on-one, in private. Not to accuse, but just to understand what's going on from their perspective. From there, you offer empathy and support. Ask them, what's getting in your way? How can I help you? Then you work with them to co-create a plan for improvement. And finally, you give them clear, consistent feedback on their progress and how their actions are impacting the team.
Okay, we're in the home stretch. You've guarded the sprint. You've coached the team. Now for the final piece of the puzzle, managing all those conversations happening outside the team. We're talking clients, product owners, VPs. This is where you align everyone's expectations with reality.
Yikes, this is a code red situation. A few of your best developers are about to walk out the door, or a super important stakeholder just ripped your demo to shreds in the sprint review. You can feel the panic setting in, and the client's confidence is just plummeting. How in the world do you handle this kind of fallout?
Your response has to be immediate, proactive, and incredibly transparent. You don't hide the bad news. You explain the situation head on. But you never just show up with a problem. You always show up with potential solutions. You immediately detail how you're going to ensure the project continues. And then, crucially, you highlight the strengths and capabilities of the team that remains. You are actively and visibly rebuilding their trust.
And that trust building always starts with empathy. This quote is such a great reminder that even when a stakeholder is angry, their feedback is a gift. The very first step is to just listen and validate what they're feeling. Only then can you actually start solving the problem together.
So, we've walked through all these different scenarios, right? Fires in the sprint, conflicts in the team, crises with stakeholders. But if you look really closely at all the best responses, there's a pattern. There's an underlying principle that connects all of them.
Remember the failing sprint? What was the first step? It wasn't to point fingers or create a new plan. It was simply to investigate the problem. And what about when the team wanted to ditch story points? What was the first move there? Not to enforce a rule from a book, but to conduct a thorough assessment of what was really going on. You see it yet? You feel that pattern emerging? And there it is, the single most powerful principle for any Scrum Master: diagnosis before prescription. In every single scenario we talked about, the best answer wasn't to jump in with a solution. It was to take a breath and first understand the why. You investigate, you assess, you listen. Then, and only then, do you act. This one, simple pattern gives us 4 amazing, actionable principles to live by. Number 1, always investigate first. Get the data. Number 2, facilitate collaboration. Guide, don't dictate. Number 3, communicate transparently. It's the foundation of trust. And number 4, coach for continuous improvement, because every single problem is a chance to get better.
So I'll just leave you with this one question to think about. Which one of these principles, if you really, truly focused on it starting tomorrow, could completely transform your team? Whatever your answer is, that's your first move. Thanks for diving into this with me.